Welcome to the DIY Doctor video on how to do a little bit of paper mache. Completely away from our normal videos, but it's April 2020. We're all locked down because of the horrible coronavirus, and I was just about to send a newsletter out to our thousands and thousands of subscribers when I suddenly thought there's not a lot in there for the kids. And it won't take long to do a paper mache video. So you can make your own paint pots, you can make your own hats with a balloon, you can make anything you like. It's a lot of fun once you've got the basics. So to be honest, this isn't my recipe. I stole this one off of YouTube, but it just made me laugh, so we're going to get on with it anyway. You're going to need some paper. You'll see an inset of the paper being cut up in a second. You'll need some flour. We're just going to mix 1 cupful of flour with half a cupful of warm water to cut down on the amount of flour we use, because that's in quite short supply. We're actually going to add, on good advice for some people, we're going to add a teaspoonful of salt as well, because that stops it going mouldy apparently, and we've got a cup. So the first thing that we're going to do is stick a cupful of flour into our mixing container. There we go. Now, another good bit of advice I've had from people that do this quite regularly with lots of kids is that before they start mixing, just give the flour itself a squidge over. Can you see me doing that? Just to get rid of any of the bigger lumps, because it's quite important that this turns into a smooth paste at the end of it. Okay, so that's the flour in the bowl. Then we're going to get half a cup of warm water. And tip that in. Okay, and then we start getting this into a creamy paste. Now this takes a little while, so we'll fade out and then we'll fade in again and show you when it's all how it needs to be. That's a bit lumpy. Come back and see us in a moment. Okay, and there we have it. You can see that I've switched from a spoon to a fork to mix this because I found it easier. Personal preference, I guess. But there we've got a paste which is really nice and runny and smooth and creamy. And that's it. That's our glue. That's the basis for our paper mache. So we're going to get a plastic bowl as a mould. Unfortunately, I haven't got any balloons. We don't keep any balloons in the workshop, but I'm told that balloons are a great thing to use. We've got our strips of paper that you saw being cut up earlier. Cover one side in the paste, scrape it off with your thumb. We don't want to waste it or use too much, and then use your fingers with what you've scraped off to put it on the other side. Okay, and then you can feel how sticky that is. So apply that to your mould and repeat. And you kids are gonna love this. In fact, to be honest, I'm absolutely loving it myself. It's a real opportunity to get yourself really messy without getting into trouble. Does it get any better than that? You can use the large pieces of paper, small pieces of paper. Usually the larger model you're making, or the larger the mould you're using, the larger bits of paper that you would need. So if this were a balloon and I were making, for example, a globe perhaps, or even a human head, because you could paper mache a nose onto a paper head and draw some eyes on when it's all dry, and that would be a lot of fun. But the larger your model, or your mould rather, the larger the pieces of paper you could use. But it is simply a question of putting one piece of paper over another, make sure they're lapping each other, turn it round so that you can see what I'm doing, and then just keep repeating the process until you've got your entire mould covered. So you'll come back and see us at that stage in a moment. Okay, so we're nearly done. This is the second layer, and about a quarter of the way through the first layer, one of these superhuman people that exist in the world today, they're otherwise known as mums, came up to me and said, "You've got the recipe wrong. It should be 2 cups of water to 1 cup of flour." The recipe that I looked up was the original one, but I've changed it. I've thinned it down simply by adding some flour, and it does indeed make things a whole. Adding some water rather, and it does indeed make things a whole lot easier if it's thinner. So I guess really it's it's one of those things that there's obviously lots of ways of doing it. I apparently chose the wrong one, but that's typical of me. However, we got there in the end, and we've now got a bowl, paper mache. Now the idea is to leave it to dry. Apparently you can help that dry with a hairdryer. Probably not a good idea to put it in the oven. I'm told that it will cook. That was my original plan. Then I suggested the microwave, and somebody hit me. So leave it in the sun, put it in the kitchen, use a hairdryer, don't cook it. We'll come back when it's dry.
Okay, son.
The good thing about having DIY Doctor and a building company and an able assistant, who you'll see in a moment, is that we've got all sorts of kit that we can use to make things easier. Haven't got a hairdryer. Have, however, got an enormous fan heater, a cutting disc, and a tube of something or another that I'm rotating it on. The plan is to get it dry as possible, and then we can show you the end result. This bowl, incidentally, I mentioned my able assistant earlier on. This bowl that I'm making is a special bowl for that able assistant, who you will see now. Widget, say hello, say hello, say hello. Okay, so we tried the massive hairdryer technique, but we felt it was a bit excessive and quite wasteful. So we turned that off and we left it overnight. So in the morning, what I've got a small watchmaker's screwdriver that I'm using. You'll probably have a spatula or something at home, and if you push that down in between your mould and the paper mache, and run that round the edge, you can feel the glue sticking a little bit to the mould. Oh, there we go. Push, push. There we go. Okay, and that's our bowl. I'm very proud of that. I don't remember doing paper. I'm sure I must have done it when I was a kid, but I don't remember it. So there we've got a bowl. There'll be some debris inside, the old flour paste or whatever. So give it a knockout. You can paint that whatever colour you like. If you did this with a balloon, I'm told, you can cover the whole thing out, pop the balloon from the inside, and then you can actually mould a nose on there and draw some eyes on there. So you could actually build a human head, cut a little bit out the bottom like that so it stands up. But I'm really pleased with the bowl that we've made. We're going to see how effective it is by giving the dog, my able assistant, some breakfast. If the camera can pan down here. Widget! Very, very useful paper mache bowl.